right on schedule here, but I think we'll just go straight to our next presentation unless there's anything, Carrie, you wanted to add.
No, I think that's good. We'll catch up
We
after.
have Melissa from Plan Institute, Melissa Cairns, I think, believe so.
Yeah,
If
glad to.
you want to come on and speak about
welcome.
Plan Institute, welcome to the CFB 2021 Virtual Choices and Goals Convention.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. And thank you to all the presenters we've had so far today. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa Cairns. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the project coordinator with Plan Institute. I do have my video on, but for those of you who aren't able to see me or just are attending via phone, I am a Caucasian person, quite tall, although you can't really tell from the room I'm in. I have blue, purple, and pink hair, but that's slicked back in a high ponytail, and I'm wearing a black t-shirt and black over the head headphones. So before I begin, I would just like to say that I am calling in from Port Coquitlam. This has been my place of residence for quite some time, and for the last year and a bit, also my place of work, thanks to COVID. And this is on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish, Katzie, Coquitlam, and Stalo peoples. I just want to make a note that territorial acknowledgements are one very small part of reconciliation and dismantling colonial worldviews. And I encourage everyone to take a moment to think of other ways that we can enact decolonization. So a bit of an outline for my presentation today. I'm not going to be using any visuals, so I'm just going to be speaking for the next 30-ish minutes. I'll try to leave some time at the end for Q&A. And if there's any remaining questions or people miss part or all of the presentation, my colleague Tom will be facilitating our exhibitor room this afternoon or tonight, depending on where you're joining us from. And that'll be from 2 to 5 p.m. PST or 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you're welcome to join in at any time. So for today, I'll first go through a little bit of information about Plan Institute, the organization that I work with, and some of the supports and services that we offer. I will then be going into a bit of information on one of our major partnerships called Access RDSP. This partnership is in collaboration with Disability Alliance BC and the BC Aboriginal Network on Disability Society. From that, I'm going to talk more about what is the disability tax credit and what is the registered disability savings plan. A lot of the work we do and most of the work that I'm involved in is around these two programs. So hopefully going to be able to explain a little bit more about what these programs are and how this might benefit you or somebody that you know. After that, I'll go into free supports available, a little bit more information on our partners, and then we will have some time at the end for Q&A. So I haven't timed myself with the presentation, so I will do my best to keep it short and succinct. So first off, I'm going to talk about Plan Institute. So Plan Institute is a national nonprofit organization and social enterprise. We're based in Vancouver, British Columbia. Right now, we don't have an office, but before COVID, we were based in Vancouver, and we support people all across Canada. So even though all of our staff members are in BC, except for some of our contractors, we do provide that support to people regardless of what province they're in. And a lot of our resources and workshops are available and relevant to people across Canada because we work with a bunch of federal programs. So, yes, so Plan Institute and our sister organization, Planned Lifetime Advocacy Network, were two organizations that champion the development of the Registered Disability Savings Plan. And this was to support Canadians with disabilities to have a better financial future. Our goal as an organization is to improve the lives of people with disabilities, and we do this through three general areas. So that would be education and our various learning initiatives, advocacy work. One thing that we've been involved in recently is the Canada Disability Benefit. I can't speak too much to that, but we are heavily involved in that work, as well as our partnerships that we engage in. And I'll be touching on one of those main partnerships in a little bit. So Plan Institute has been around for about 21 years. We came from our sister organization, Plan, which has been around for quite a few decades. as well. And we really took the learnings from Plan and tried to turn that into learning opportunities and trying to enact policy change on a large scale basis. So we have a number of resources. We have 6 different workshops that are going on pretty much all the time. One's on the Registered Disability Savings Plan, wills, trusts, and estate planning. That workshop is more specific to BC, but we do have our helpline advisor who specializes on that and can speak to that for people across Canada. We also have a personal support network facilitation workshop, as well as a few others as well. Some of the resources that we have include our future planning tool. This is available online, just a web-based tool. To go there, it's just futureplanningtool.ca. This is an online resource that is used to guide people through up to 10 disability planning topics that include detailed information for BC and for Ontario. This free resource was developed in collaboration with Ability Tax and Trust, Pour-An Law, and Prosper Canada. And just in case you're curious, those 10 topics are contribution, estate planning, housing, income tax, legal decision-making, personal support networks, provincial and other benefits, the Registered Disability Savings Plan, savings and investments, and trusts. This tool can be used to help identify your goals and build a personal plan for you or somebody you're supporting in any of these different elements. We also have an ebook called The Final Act of Kindness. I believe this is a free or low-cost ebook that guides you and your loved ones through the steps necessary to ensure that you can pass away with ease of mind. So Plan Institute believes that all of us can use assistance to better plan for our passing, and we've developed this resource with 2 distinct readers in mind. The first reader is somebody who is in anticipation of their passing, wants to ensure that their affairs are in order. And the second reader is the family member or person who is going to be carrying out the final wishes of the person. So this is a way to record that and to provide the resources to assist your family in making these important decisions and to provide peace of mind that comes from knowing that you're prepared for death when it comes and to create an easier transition. Safe and Secure is another free ebook that goes through the 7 steps needed to ensure a good life for people with disabilities. Right now, I believe that is available only electronically, but we're happy to print off a copy if somebody wants it, just from a regular printer. And this book is intended as an inspirational guidebook for parents and other family members who are concerned about the future of the relative with a disability, or for somebody who themselves has a disability and wants to learn more. So these are just a few of the resources that Plan Institute has. You can review our website online at planinstitute.ca. And there's lots of other information there. We have several digital downloads, other resources, but that's just a very brief overview of Plan Institute. So now I'm going to touch on our Access RDSP partnership. And this is what I'm going to be spending pretty much the rest of the presentation talking about. So Access RDSP is an ongoing partnership, as I mentioned, between Plan Institute, Disability Alliance BC, and the BC Aboriginal Network on Disability Society. All workshops, resources, and services provided through Access RDSP are free, and we've done this in an attempt to eliminate barriers to this support. So before I go into the various free supports that we have around this, I'm going to dive right in and talk to you a little bit about the Registered Disability Savings Plan and how the disability tax credit ties into that. I'm not sure what everyone's current awareness is of the Registered Disability Savings Plan, also known as RDSP. I'll just refer to it as RDSP from now on, just for ease of talking about it. So a little bit of a brief history of the RDSP. So Canada is the first country in the world to have a registered disability savings plan. It is also the only country in the world that has this plan. If you've heard of any other one that has a similar program, please let me know. But to my knowledge, Canada is the only country right now that does have the registered disability savings plan. The federal government implemented the RDSP on December 1st, 2008. And as I mentioned, our organization, Plan Institute, our sister organization, Plan, were heavily involved in advocating for this plan to be created and are constantly in the process of advocating for policy reform and making it an even better program for Canadians. So by the end of December 2017, just under 10 years since the origin of the RDSP, over 168,000 Canadians had an RDSP. Now, we don't have any more recent data at this time because the annual statistic review where we get this data has only been completed up to 2017. We're eagerly awaiting 2018 and 2019 statistics, and we would reckon that there's probably at least a few more tens of thousands, if not an additional 100,000+ people that have RDSPs since then. So what is the RDSP? The RDSP, in short, is a federal government plan that takes the form of a long-term investment account. So I'm going to compare the RDSP to two other plans that you might be a little more familiar with. So the first of those is the tax-free savings account. So a tax-free savings account, most people are familiar with that. It's a plan that you can have where you deposit money and whatever funds are in there will not be taxed when the funds are in there and when you make a withdrawal. Now, the registered disability savings plan is tax deferred, so you're not going to be charged tax on it when it's in there. And of the funds that are withdrawn, it's only the government grants and bonds and any interest earned in the account that's taxed. So a little bit similar. And the other one that this was more designed off of is the registered education savings plan. So similarly to the registered education savings plan, the registered disability savings plan can bring in government contributions through grants and bonds. However, the registered disability savings plan is the most advantageous of pretty much all of the registered plans for people with disabilities. And this is because through the lifetime of the plan, and when I say lifetime, I mean up until the end of the year, the person with the disability or the beneficiary turns 49, is that the government can contribute up to $90,000. And I'll explain how to get that in a little bit. So outside of that, you can also deposit up to $200,000 in personal contributions. And this can be contributed up until the end of the year that the person with the disability turns 59. So it has a little bit longer to accrue in the account. And with all this money, which could be, $290,000 plus any interest in the account, that money is 100% exempt from any federal disability benefits. So this includes Canada Pension Plan disability, it includes old age security, the guaranteed income supplement, and it also does not affect most provincial disability benefits. For the most part, it is an exempt asset for almost all. I put the almost all because there are some caveats to that. There are very few programs that consider it an asset, but for the most part, people are able to save this money and not worry about losing any of the benefits that they currently receive, as well as this not counting as an asset towards somebody's limit if they're looking for something such as BC Housing or some other housing program. But you would want to double check with your local ministry or where you get your income assistance, just to double check with that. So now that I've explained a little bit about what the RDSP is, and I'll go into more of the details now. So who is eligible for an RDSP and how can you get one started? So in order to be eligible for the RDSP, you must be a resident of Canada. You must have a valid social insurance number. This can be a temporary social insurance number that still attract the government grants and bonds. You would just want to make sure that you are making sure that you don't have your SIN expire because then that would stop that, but temporary is fine. Must open the RDSP before the end of the calendar year in which the beneficiary or the person with the disability turns 59, and you must have the disability tax credit. Now, I mentioned the disability tax credit at the beginning, and I'll touch on that a little bit more now because this is the most difficult aspect or the most difficult eligibility criteria to achieve for for most people, I would say, just because it is a little bit more difficult usually than, say, provincial disability benefits. So the disability tax credit, something that you may have heard of before, it is the qualifying factor to open an RDSP. It's also referred to as the T2201 form from the Canada Revenue Agency. This is available online. I'm also happy to share that form if anyone is interested in taking a look. This form, which is the tax credit, can also be used as a tax deduction. I believe somebody who's approved for the disability tax credit can receive up to a few $1,000s. I think the highest is around $8,000 a year that somebody might be able to reduce on their taxes. And this does help individuals access other tax benefits, such as the child disability benefit and the working income tax benefit. And I believe there's one other that I can't remember off the top of my head. This tax credit is also transferable. So it's advantageous to have even just on its own without opening up an RDSP. And this is because of that potential cost savings in taxes. And if you yourself are somebody who doesn't pay taxes, generally, you could transfer this to somebody who is an eligible caregiver. And this just means somebody who supports you with regular housing, clothing, or food. So as long as they meet one of those criteria, then they may be able to claim this on their behalf and then help to offset their taxes. Now, the disability tax credit can also be claimed retroactively, which means up to 10 years in the past, if you're approved for it, you can go and have them reassess your taxes and apply this credit, which, you know, we've seen people who have applied this tax credit and could receive several thousands, if not sometimes over $10,000 back from just applying this credit. So it's a great thing to have in and of itself. Now, the reason that I'm mentioning this and why we spend a lot of our time through our Access RDSP partnership on the disability tax credit is because, similarly to some provincial disability benefit applications, this is something that needs to be completed with your medical practitioner. There are a few different medical practitioners that can fill out their portion of the form, and it's their portion of the form that makes up the majority of the application for this tax credit. There are different categories that you can qualify under for this tax credit. So, you know, it can be walking, seeing, feeding, dressing, even the mental functions necessary for daily life, which is basically mental health conditions or neurological conditions as well, cumulative effects of impairment, and there are a few others as well. So lots of ways to categorize or to be approved for this credit based on the categorization of your disability. And so there are, as I said, all these different categories that you can qualify under, and it depends on the severity of your disability and how much the disability impacts your life. So it doesn't so much matter if you have a diagnosis or what your diagnosis is, especially I'm sure many of you are aware that disability can affect people in a number of different ways, especially depending on, you know, someone may have the same diagnosis and it impacts two people in completely different ways. So again, it's about the severity of your disability, not the diagnosis of your disability itself. And so, you know, some tips for talking with your medical practitioner. We do a lot of work with us to try to help educate medical practitioners and try to provide more information on how to fill out the form and about what type of wording the Canada Revenue Agency is looking for. That's who you apply to for the disability tax credit. And so to speak with your medical practitioner, you know, it's always good to have an open discussion with them about your situation and the impacts of your disability. Give specific examples and details regarding the effects on your life daily. Eligibility, again, is based on the effects of impairment. And you want to make sure that you and your medical practitioner keep all the records of documentation received and submitted. Now, the medical practitioner might charge a fee to fill out this form, but they are required to, at least in BC, they have to fill out the form and provide that to you.
Join the meeting.
Even if you're not able to pay for it. And many practitioners, if you go to them and say, look, cost is a barrier for me, is there any way that we can either reduce or waive the fee to complete this application? And they might be able to do that as well. Now, once you've applied for the tax credit, you sent it off, it can take a few months before the Canada Revenue Agency gets back to you and says whether you've been approved or not. If you are approved, it's usually for a certain number of years. I think very rarely now are they actually giving out lifetime permanent status approvals for the disability tax credit. So it might be 5, 10, 15, 20 years that you might be eligible for, and then you'll have to reapply in the future. And for some people with cyclical disorders or disabilities that aren't as clear cut that they will be a permanent lifetime disability, it may be an even shorter length of time. They may require more information from the medical practitioner, and they may decline the application on the first try. Now, just because if you're denied for the disability tax credit doesn't necessarily mean that you are ineligible for it. It could just mean there was a problem with the form and how that was filled out. It may be worth connecting with your medical practitioner or a local advocate. So one of the supports that I'll mention now is that through our helpline, and I'm going to give that number and email address now. I'll also probably mention that a few other times, but that number is 1-844-311-7526. And the email is info@rdsp.com. So info@rdsp.com. And you can reach out at any time if you want to learn more about the disability tax credit, want support in applying, need help with an appeal process or reapplying for the tax credit. We're happy to provide as many resources as we can around that. We've also created some tailored guides for medical practitioners, and we do have some workshops that are devoted specifically to the disability tax credit. And so lots of ways to learn more about that and how to go about applying. So I'm going to veer back now to the Registered Disability Savings Plan. Now that you're hopefully a little bit more familiar with the disability tax credit, that makes you eligible for the RDSP. So as I mentioned earlier, the RDSP can bring in up to $90,000 from the federal government. Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, this is a government contribution. What do I have to do to get that? So for part of that, let me start again. So the way that they bring in this money into the RDSP is in two different ways. So we have what are called the Canada Disability Saving Grants, or just grants, and that is up to $70,000. Now, these are what's called matching grants. So they do require a personal contribution into the RDSP before they can be brought in. Now, they will do up to $3 for every $1 you deposit. This is based on family income. If the person with a disability is a minor, so they're under the age of 19 or before the year in which they turn 19, then it would be based on their legal guardian's income. And if it was an adult, then it would be based on their personal income. And it looks at the income from 2 years previously. So, it's 2021 now. The deadline, I think, to file taxes for this year was now in 2020. Earlier that year, again, takes a little bit of time for the income taxes to be filed. 2020, those taxes are due now. 2021 is still in the process. The government doesn't know how much money you're going to be making this year. I don't even know fully how much money I'm going to be making this year. So the government bases it on 2 years past when there's been enough time that they have that information. So if you are the parent or caregiver of somebody with a disability and they are under the age of 19, we would suggest starting to file their taxes at age 17, just so that by the time they're in the year that they turn 19, there are 2 years to look back at, and they'll be eligible for a higher amount of those grants. Now, to kind of summarize, you can get up to $3,500 per year in grants. So that's $3 for every $1 for the first 500, $2 for every $1 in the next 1,000. So you deposit $1,500 and the government will match up to $3,500 per year. Now, if you are approved for the disability tax credit for, say, 10 years in the past, and you haven't opened an RDSP, but you'd like to open it up today, as long as you're under the year in which you turn 49, you'll be able to catch up on up to 10 years of grants that you've missed out on. And that would be up to $10,500 per year that you'd be able to bring in. The formula is different depending on your personal situation, so I won't give too many examples about that, but that's how the grant works. And then the bond, which is most advantageous for people who are of low income, especially those who don't have any extra money to deposit into the RDSP. And this was a measure that was added in to help provide for those people with disabilities who may not be able to have that, sort of higher income. So the bond is up to $20,000, and this would be up to $1,000 per year for up to 20 years or however long it takes to receive that amount. Again, before the end of the year in which the beneficiary, person with a disability, turns 49. And so just by having the account open, these are automatically deposited by the government each year, again, based on your income, and it's a different income threshold. If anyone is interested in those thresholds, I can quickly look those up and provide them. But that's how that works, and so it can be quite advantageous. And for the bonds, again, those can also go back 10 years. And so just by opening the account, say 2021, you're eligible for the disability tax credit from 2010 all the way through 2040. You have those 10 years, you are under the low income threshold, you could see an automatic $11,000 be deposited into that account within the first year that you have that opened. And then after that, it'll get back to the $1,000 per year. So again, if you want to know more about what you might be entitled to for grants and bonds, how that might work in your personal situation, you can reach out to our helpline. Again, that's 1-844-311-7526 and info@rdsp.com. So now we've talked a little bit about that. There are some additional caveats to the plan. Withdrawals aren't as immediate. It's meant to be a long-term plan, so it's not as flexible as some of the other saving plans. But I just wanted to share a little bit of information about that, and hopefully you'll come to our exhibitor room this afternoon or this evening and learn more about that and how it might work in your personal situation. And again, for people who are past the age that they can receive those government contributions, so say they're in their 50s already, it's a great way to save money without impacting your federal or provincial disability benefits. It doesn't affect your eligibility for old age security or guaranteed income supplement later on in life. And it is a great way to save large sums of money, such as an inheritance or a car accident settlement or something like that. Now, to open an RDSP, most financial institutions have that. So if you already have the disability tax credit, you could even just do some research, figure out what financial institution works for you, and then you can go in there and apply. It usually takes 30 to 60 minutes, 1 or 2 meetings. It's not a very quick process, but once you have that, you can start saving and start seeing those government contributions come in within about 2 months of opening that plan. So without going too much more into the nitty-gritty details of the plan, I just want to outline the support that we have around the RDSP through our Access RDSP partnership. So again, I've provided that helpline information, and I see Tom put that in the chat as well, so you can have that there for easy reference. You can also go to rdsp.com. That is where we have pretty much all of our RDSP resources that we have available. We have an RDSP calculator where you can put in your own information, your income, DTC approved years, how much money you might be able to save in a year, and that will calculate what your RDSP could look like in the future and how much money you might be able to receive from the government and save for your future. We also have an RDSP tutorial. This is quite extensive and we're constantly updating this, so it goes through pretty much all the information you would need to know on that. And we do have regular RDSP level 1 and level 2 webinars. We used to have these in person, but now we've switched to a webinar only format. And these are running once every single month for level 1 and for level 2. I should have had the dates already, but I don't have them now. But we have our level 1 and level 2 coming up in May. I believe it's on May 12th is our next level 1. I think that's at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so 1 p.m. Eastern. And then on Wednesday, the 19th of May is when we have our next RDSP level 2 webinar. So I highly encourage you to sign up. They're completely free. Again, all of our supports available for the RDSP and disability tax credit are free of charge. So you don't have to worry about that. We're also always looking to collaborate with additional organizations. So this could be groups of medical practitioners, doctors' offices, community organizations, social workers, really, education sectors, pretty much anyone who works with and knows people with disabilities who might be able to share the information or may already share information but want some additional clarification or some resources to help with that. Please feel free to reach out to us again. We're always excited for new partnerships and for reaching out to other organizations and individuals, even individual advocates. So feel free to reach out. We'd love to talk more about that. And I know we're almost finished with our time, so I'm just going to wrap up with a little bit more information about our helpline. And so our helpline, that's the number and email address that we've provided. Again, this is a national service. It's free of charge. Right now we have a 2 to 6 business day wait time for a response, but most of our advisors get back earlier than that. And we can support people with pretty much any disability planning topic you have questions on or want to know more about. RDSP, disability tax credit, wills, trusts, estate planning, income assistance, housing, advocacy, employment, education, and probably something else that I have not covered with all of that. So again, feel free to reach out at any time. If we ourselves, either through our partnership or Plan Institute, can't help you directly with your questions, we're happy to do some research and figure that out, or refer you on to another organization that might be able to support you more effectively with your concerns. So please feel free to reach out. And I think I will finish with that. We probably have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions for the next presentation. And again, in our 45 minutes, we'll be in the exhibitor hall and able to address any other questions or concerns.
Okay, we're coming up on a lunch break here, but since it is lunch break, if you want to do a couple questions now, that's an option, or if you'd prefer to just hold off until the exhibit hall, as you'll be there as well, I believe. So it's up to you.
I have no preference. If there are questions now, I can take them. Otherwise, we can save them for later. No real preference on my part.
All right. Well, we have about 5 minutes if people want to ask questions. And if there aren't any hands raising, then we can close off for a little break. So we'll wait a few seconds here and see.
Sure.
And to raise your hand is Alt-Y on the computer and *9 on your phone. And then
Thanks for that.
What is it again, Brian?
Let me check. I
think it's Control-Shift-Y.
To mute and unmute. Is that? Yeah, so to mute, and I should have these memorized. Yeah, mute and unmute is Alt+A on the computer. And we have a hand raised.
Paul?
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
My name is Paul Mugambi, a blind person from Kenya.
Hi, Paul. Nice to have you join us today.
I really appreciate the discussions around what you've been doing, and it is really inspiring for me because in our country, we don't get to access such services. So it is really interesting for me. And I would be interested to see how we can network and get to learn more, because I just got an invite from one of my friends in the US, told me, just go and listen to something from the Canadian people and know what they are doing. Yeah, so I decided to join in and get to listen. And I think I'm very, very excited and greatly inspired.
Oh, well, that is so great to hear. Yeah, we've done some work with people in other countries. I think the States is more common, but recently we have a course on personal support network facilitation, and we had people from Australia who were participating in that course. So we also a few years ago attended a conference of the United Nations to discuss the RDSP and about the work that us and our partners are doing on the Registered Disability Savings Plan in Canada. And so that was a really exciting opportunity. So if you wanted to reach out just to, discuss and see if there's any learnings that we can share, by all means, feel free to do so.
I will get in touch because there are several things I've gotten to learn, and I would like to see how we can network. And also, there is a new program which was announced by your Prime Minister and the Kenyan President about people migrating to Canada. So I don't know whether blind people are in that program or not. So I'd like to see also to see how we can explore such opportunities for blind students in Kenya to get such opportunities, or even people to come and join you over there.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Awesome.
More information throughout the conference, and please keep coming.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have another hand. It's Elizabeth. I will unmute you. You are unmuted, Elizabeth.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. Well, what a fabulous convention it's been so far. I've learned so much. Like, I've heard of all of these organizations, but I've picked up so much information, more information. So thank you. I just had a question. I always get mixed up. I hear it's 49. You have to be under 49 to do the, I have one, thank goodness, I'm 47. But I noticed you were talking about 59. Has anything changed over the years in terms of allowing older people older than 49 to, could you just explain that a little? I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, of course. And so I didn't touch too much on that because it can take a bit of time, but
Right.
basically what the age limits are. So for the RDSP, somebody can open that up until the end of the year in which they turn 59. I say up until the end of the year because it's very specific with the wording. So we've had people reach out and say, oh, I'm not 59 yet, but I'm 59 this year. Can I do it? And unfortunately, no. So that's the age to open it. Now, the end of the year in which the beneficiary turns 49 is the last year that grants and bonds can be received in the account. And the reason for that is for something called the 10-year rule. Now, the 10-year rule specifies that if you receive any grants or bonds within the account, they must be in there for 10 years from the date of deposit before you can withdraw without penalty. Just briefly, that penalty would be $3 of grants and bonds returned for every $1 you take out. Again, that can be a bit complex to figure out, but that's the reasoning for that. And withdrawals must start from the plan in the year the beneficiary turns 60. So by having that 10 years between 49 and 59, where there are no government contributions, that means that when those mandatory withdrawals start in the year that the beneficiary turns 60, that there won't be any penalties. None of those grants or bonds are going to be returned to the government. And so it's a streamlined process. Right now, Plan Institute, where our executive director is on the RDSP Action Group in BC. And this group meets once every few months to discuss, different aspects of the RDSP. They have different focus areas for advocacy and trying to determine, what would be most advantageous to change, what should we really be pushing for the federal government. And I believe right now, one of the recommendations that we've shared and are in the process of trying to work on is to reduce that waiting period to be, even just to reduce it to 5 years, as well as trying to include exemptions for people who, and, it's unfortunate we get this fairly regularly, I would say, at least a few people a month who say, oh, I'm in my 50s now. I just got the DTC. I only just heard about the RDSP now. Is there any way that I can get those grants and bonds that I was eligible for in my 40s now that I'm 50? Unfortunately, there's no appeal process as of right now to allow that, but that is something that we're working on, and hopefully we'll see some changes to that in the next few years. And that's really why our partnership of Access RDSP was created, to try and share more information and to educate and to include this information to people as early as possible so that folks don't miss out on this opportunity. Again, the plan's been going since 2008, and I think probably a lot of people still have no idea what it is, have never heard of it before, maybe somebody who's had a lifelong disability and have never heard of it. So, we try to get the word out as much as possible, but to answer your question, no current changes are being planned, but we're hopeful that possibly in the future we'll be able to get that changed.
Great. Thank you very much.
I believe someone has a raised hand with the ending numbers 9869. I will ask you to unmute right now. I think that worked.
Hi, how's it going? It's Roger here.
Oh, it's Roger with the number. Perfect.
Yeah, I just wanted to leave my cell phone open in case we got any tech-related calls. Anyway, so my quick question is, so you were saying that 60 is the year, okay, at age 60, do you have to withdraw from the RDSP, or is that just basically the first year you could withdraw if you wanted to?
Yeah, so withdrawals must start from the plan, and withdrawals are a little complicated, but to try to summarize that in a little bit better. So there are two different types of payments that can come from the RDSP. One is referred to as the LDAP, or the Lifetime Disability Assistance Payment. This is one that starts the year in which the beneficiary turns 60 and is calculated to end by the time the beneficiary turns 83. So that's 23 years. Each year, you would have to withdraw basically whatever amount is in the plan divided by how many years left you have until the age of 83. So you would actually start seeing more withdrawals later on. However, if somebody has deposited more money than the government, so say, the government has contributed $70,000 in grants and bonds, and you've deposited, $75,000 over the course of the plan, then you could actually withdraw the full amount of the plan at that time. There's a lot more flexibility in those withdrawals. But if it is a mostly government contributed plan, so there's more grants and bonds than personal contributions, then you would have to stick to that formula. And I think you can withdraw up to an additional 10% of the plan. So yes, those withdrawals must start by the time the beneficiary turns 60. It's basically, supposed to be seen as sort of a retirement savings plan. And I guess the way in which it was set up is that they feel most people retire around 60 to 65. So starting the payments at that time. And again, withdrawals don't impact most disability benefits, provincially, no federal benefits. So that could be used as a way to supplement the additional assistance that's being received.
Okay, and you also mentioned that we could catch up to 10 years. How do you double check to make sure that you've actually caught up to those 10 years? What can you do just to, because you'd hate to get to the end of the thing and go, oops, I just missed a year or two, so.
Yeah, so once the RDSP is open, Employment and Social Development Canada, or ESDC, they're the government branch that oversees the RDSP, and they deposit the grants and bonds. Every year, usually about the end of February, sometimes in March, they'll mail out what's called an annual statement of grant entitlement. This will be to the holder of the RDSP account, and it goes through how much money you would have to deposit to get the maximum amount of grants, and this includes any retroactive contributions. So that would be one way of getting that information. You can also just call ESDC pretty much as soon as the RDSP is open, it's been confirmed. You can call them and request that to be mailed. I'm not sure if they do email. I think they probably do, but to get that information as well and to connect with them, you would just need to have your social insurance number, RDSP number, and of course your first and last name and birthday. And then they would be able to provide that information over the phone and can email or mail that to you afterwards.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Awesome. I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
You there, Bri? Thank you very much, Melissa. That was great.